The day of reckoning has finally come, Detroit. Judgment Day has arrived for the dim-witted duo of Boob, Quinn, and Matt Pooptricia, as the two incompetent bozos have been canned,
He gone!
and sent packing for the unemployment line. And all I can say is, it's about time. Ding-dong draft picks, fecal free agent signings, poopy play calling, and a defense that couldn't stop a drunken sloth all contributed to the demise of Quinn-Tricia as your 5-7 felines enter yet another regime change with the 32-year-old quarterback that unfortunately hasn't won dick, which prompts the question, are Matthew Stafford's days numbered as well? Also, which victim should get the dubious honor of becoming the next head coach of your Detroit Lions? We'll discuss. We yak Motor City Kitties and Michigan State, plus much, much more right now on DSE.
Recorded from Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, this is Detroit Sports Extreme. Here now is your new voice for Detroit Sports, Johnny Bakerstone.
Happy firing farewell, Motor City, and welcome to yet another edition of DSE. We are tailgating from outside of Gate A at Ford Field in Detroit, fresh off deep dish pizzas, yummy, hot dogs, and a shocking Week 13 victory in Chi-Town. And although interim coach Darrell Bevel's Windy City Miracle may have seemed nice after your 6th beer at 4 o'clock on Sunday, it will unfortunately go down as a meaningless win, as it cost our beloved Lions critical NFL draft positioning. More on that in a moment, and hint, the upcoming schedule is absolutely brutal, but as Candy and I watch the final moments and several draft picks piss away in Chicagoland on Sunday, we couldn't help ourselves but to get our mouths kicked in the balls by doubting disgusting shots of Jeppson's Malort. Folks, it's supposed to be a Chicago staple, but that drink tastes like a mixture of rubbing alcohol, gasoline, and Al Capone's asshole. Let's now quickly recap Sunday's battle against the Bears, and we will then go over what went wrong with former Lions GM Boob Quinn and head coach Matt Pooptricia, and the list is endless. And we will then discuss a couple of possible candidates I'm eyeing. No, Wayne Fonts is not one of them.
Week 13 recap.
Joining me for this segment will be my former counterpart at 1660 The Wave, Candy Copperfield. Good morning, Candy. We sure had a grand time touring all those Chicago-style deep dish pizza parlors and breweries last weekend, didn't we, amigo?
Good morning, Johnny. Are you stuck in the wrong year? Everything was shut down in Chicago because of the pandemic, you booze bag, so we had to order takeout and eat in our hotel room. Perhaps you're not remembering things correctly from all that Jeppson's Malort you had.
Oh yeah. Folks, don't let Chicago Ganders talk you into having their, quote, drink of choice. It's absolutely awful, and I'm still hungover from it.
I believe they're referred to as Chicagoans, Johnny.
You can call them what you want, and although the Windy City is one of my favorite cities, one thing we can both agree on is their football team can eat shit. I've never liked the Bears, and although they usually kick our teeth into the ground at Soldier Field, the one time we could actually benefit from a Lake Michigan ass-kicking, it doesn't happen. And after all, the Leos entered the game with only 6 wins in Chicago since 2001. As the game's first half played out, it looked like more of the same as the Honolulu Blue and Silver dug themselves into a 23-13 halftime hole. Even late into the second half, Detroit was down 30-20, but Matthew Stafford found Marvin Jones for a 25-yard touchdown to cut the deficit to 3 with only 2 minutes and 18 seconds remaining. I have to admit, I called Jones all but dead earlier this season, but he's come on of late. But in any event, it doesn't really matter, as the 30-year-old will be a goner next season, as his contract will expire, and I highly doubt he'll be retained, regardless of who the next GM is. The backbreaker came on the next series, as Romeo Okwara strip-sacked Mitchell Trubisky, giving the Lions the ball at the Bears' 7-yard line with less than 2 minutes left in the game.
Yep. At that time, the thought crept into my mind that the Lions could actually win this thing. And that's when the shots started to flow, eh, Johnny?
Okwara has been one of the few bright spots for the Lions defensively and has made his money on third down and late in games. On third downs this season, he is tied for third in the NFL with 5 sacks and is tied for first with 2 forced fumbles. His 2 forced fumbles in the fourth quarter are tied for the most in the NFL by a defensive end, and he leads the Lions in sacks by a large margin. So we do have that going for us. The Felines made the Bears pay on the ensuing possession as Adrian Peterson punched in a 5-yard touchdown, his second of the day, and although the Bears threatened at the end, David Montgomery was stuffed at the Lions' 20-yard line on 4th and 1 to seal the deal. It was the Bears' 6th loss in a row, as the fire bald-headed visor-wearing Matt Nagy talk has been going on now for weeks in Chicago. But for the Lions, the win is really a loss when you factor in April's 2021 NFL Draft.
Boy, ain't that the truth. With the loss, the Lions would have plummeted to 4-8 and would currently have a top 10 pick in the NFL Draft. 4 quarterbacks are expected to be drafted in the top 10, and unless you guys think Matthew Stafford, who will turn 33 next year, will be here much longer, I suggest the Lions get their paws on one of these youngsters. As it stands right now, the Kitty Cats' pointless victory drops them down to the 12th pick, which is purgatory territory if you're looking for a starting signal caller.
You got any more of that Malort candy? With the NFL's addition of another playoff spot this year, Detroit is amazingly only 1 game out of the final wildcard spot in the NFC, but I'm not letting that fool me one iota. Their final 4 games are against Green Bay, loss, at Tennessee, loss, Tampa Bay, loss, and Minnesota, probably loss. So one would think we will probably crawl back into the top 10 of the NFL Draft, but it's pivotal we lose these games. Guys, early in the year and even in the middle of the year, I was cheering for us to win. We had that home game against the Colts when we were 3-3. A win there and we go to 4-3. I was cheering hard for us in that game. And then the Carolina game rolled in later. That was also a win and we're right in the thick of things in the playoff hunt. But we lost both games. I'm done with the false hope. I want to lose and I want to get better NFL draft positioning.
Yeah, Johnny, and the problem is you have a man in Darrell Bevell that is coaching for his nuts and wants to finish the season strong to give himself at least a chance at getting the full-time coaching gig.
Players did say Bevell allowed them to play more loosely and have more fun out there, and it did show on the field, but you have to figure he's building up his resume for his next job. But with the Lions, you just never know. And as for who could take over the reins next season, let's dive into that right now.
Detroit Lions head coaching search 2020.
Before we dive into the possible Lion head coaching candidates for next season, let's go over the boneheaded blunders of Boob, Quinn, and Matt Pooptricia that led to their canning. Let's start with Boob. Since Quinn took over as Lions general manager in 2016, he's drafted only one player that wound up being a Pro Bowler in Kenny Golladay.
1. Over the last 5 years, Boob has made 43 draft selections in the NFL Draft, and he's made some absolutely head-scratching selections. Tease Tabor, Miles Killebrew, and Jared Davis are some of the many draft picks that come to mind that have not panned out. Quinn pathetically leaves Detroit with an overall record of 31-43-1. The former director of pro scouting for the New England Patriots has been an absolute disaster and dumpster fire in Detroit. Let's not forget about some of his free agent signings as well. Quinn signed tight end Jesse James to a 4-year, $22 million deal in 2019, only to draft my boy TJ Hawkinson a month later in the first round of the NFL Draft. James has recorded all of 28 catches in 20 games and barely sniffs the field. In 2017, Quinn signed offensive tackle Rick Wagner to a 5-year, $47 million deal, making him the highest paid right tackle in the NFL. How did Wagner reward Quinn, you ask? Only by being one of the Lions' worst run blockers during his stay in Detroit, grading as the second worst offensive lineman in 2019. Wagner is no longer a member of the team. It goes on and on and on. Joining Quinn in the toilet house of the unemployment line is Matt Pooptricia. Pooptricia replaced Jim Caldwell in 2017, who was fresh off a 9-7 season. Yet Boob Quinn axed him anyway, saying the Lions needed to be better. In his 4 seasons in Detroit, Caldwell won 56% of his games, the best winning percentage of any Detroit Lions head coach since Buddy Parker did it in the early 1950s. I'm sure you all remember good old Buddy Parker. Not only did the Lions not get better, they got way worse, as they went from a coach who won 56% of his games in Caldwell to a coach who only won 31% of his games in Pooptricia. With the reputation of a defensive guru from his time in New England, Pooptricia's defenses in Detroit have been beyond horrendous. And get this, Pooptricia blew a double-digit lead in 12 of his 29 losses as head coach. In the end, he lost 9 straight games against the division and never beat the Bears or Vikings, and had a losing record against the Packers. His record against the division, you ask? 2-13. My God. Poop couldn't hold leads, was a horrible game manager, didn't have the respect of the locker room, and most importantly, was a loser, departing with an overall record of 13-29-1. I've got 2 words for you, Boob Quinn and Matt Pooptricia. Good riddance. Regarding who I think should be the next head coach of your Detroit Lions, I don't like to speculate on coaching hires because none of us really know how these bozos are going to turn out, and the Lions could bring Vince Lombardi back from the dead, and they'd probably still lose. But for the sake of entertainment and the show, I'll talk about it for a few minutes. The 3 coaching names that seem to get circled back around are Titans offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy, and 49ers defensive coordinator Robert Saleh. Even though it's the current trend in the NFL to go after a coach in the college ranks, I highly doubt the Leos will go after someone like Oklahoma's Lincoln Riley, Urban Meyer, or even, God help us, Jim Harbaugh. Arthur Smith is only 38 years old, but that's another trend these days, hiring a young coach, as we've seen in the past with Sean McVay of the Rams and Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers. He is largely credited for turning around the career of quarterback Ryan Tannehill, who's seen a career resurgence in Tennessee after taking over as the starting quarterback during the middle of last season. After surprisingly reaching the AFC Championship game last season, the Titans lead the AFC South this year with a record of 8-4 and rank 3rd in points per game and 4th in yards per game. Smith is cute, but outside of an interview, I doubt the Lions will go after him.
Bieniemy has been the Chiefs' offensive coordinator since 2018, and the team is second in the NFL in points, scoring almost 31 per game. We all know KC is dynamite offensively. I'll keep my take short and sweet on Bieniemy. He's probably a fine man and a good coordinator, but I'd be leery of signing him as a head coach. Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce would make a lot of guys look good, and Andy Reid is the true architect and mastermind behind the offensive curtain in KC. No thanks on Bieniemy. Finally, Robert Saleh rounds out my short list, and if you put a gun to my head, he'd be the guy I choose. He's a Dearborn native who grew up a Lions fan, played college football at Northern Michigan, and was a coach at both Central Michigan and Michigan State. Saleh is a great motivator and teacher who would instantly command respect in the locker room, something Pooptricia did not, and is a bright defensive mind. His defense was a big reason why the Niners reached the Super Bowl last season. They allowed the fewest passing yards per game in the NFL since 2009. And despite injuries to nearly everyone on the team this year, including the ball boy, San Francisco has managed to stay competitive. Saleh might be just the hottest coaching name out there right now, so the Leos will have to compete with teams like the Texans, Jaguars, and Falcons, to name a few. But a Michigan reunion sure seems like a match made in heaven. I think, anyway. As for Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford, he's due to cost the Lions a massive $33 million in cap space next year. And if the Kitty Cats decide to trade or release number 9, it would cost them $19 million. Yamahama. We might have to wait one more season before it happens, but that should not stop the Lions from drafting a quarterback in the first round of April's NFL draft, especially if they have a top 10 pick. So Lions, please lose these next 4 games of the season, for God's sakes.
Week 14 Preview.
Guys, I'm not going to waste much of your time handicapping this game. The Lions are 7.5-point underdogs, and although they usually play the Cheese Dicks tough at home, I don't see this game going very well. The Pack are 8-5 in the Motor City, dating back to 2006. DeAndre Swift is trending towards playing, which is a welcoming sight for the running game, and the Packers allow a generous 4.6 yards per carry, but still missing in action with a bum hip and expected to miss his 6th game in a row is Kenny Golladay. Without Kenny G, expect to see a lot of Marvin Jones, Quintez Cephus, and Danny Amendola yet again. As we mentioned earlier, Jones has been playing well in Galladay's absence, and even Cephus caught a long touchdown in the Bears win. The Lions reportedly want to give young players like Cephus and Jamal Agnew more looks as we enter the final month of the season, and that was evident by the release of Marvin Hall. I'm not acting like Hall was Jerry Rice out there, but the cut was a head-scratcher, especially considering he is still only 27 years old and is the Lions' only deep threat without Golladay on the field. I'm sorry, but I'm going to need to see more from Cephus before I can say otherwise. Also, why cut Hall and give more reps to 31-year-old journeyman Mohamed Sanu? It makes no sense to me. The Lions say they're having more fun under interim head coach Darrell Bevell, but will that fun melt the cheese off the ass of Aaron Rodgers and company?
Behind enemy lines, the Green Bay Packers.
For any of you that thought Aaron Rodgers was starting to decline, you were sadly mistaken. Discount Double Chump may be the favorite for the league's most valuable player, as he's first in the NFL in touchdown passes, second in quarterback rating, tied for the 3rd fewest interceptions, and is 7th in passing yards. The Packers traded up to draft Utah State quarterback Jordan Love in the first round of the NFL draft. And it lit a fire up Rodgers' ass that's still burning. Anything short of 3 touchdown passes on Sunday, and I'll drop dead shocked. I respect the hell out of him as a player, but I hate his guts, and he seems like a real dick off the field, too. Aaron, this is a special message from DSE that you can kiss my ass. The Lambeau Buttlickers don't lack skill position talent either, as running back Aaron Jones and wide receiver Devontae Adams are among the league's best. Jones ranks in the top 10 of running backs in yards, touchdowns, and yards per carry, and Adams is tied for first in the NFL in receiving touchdowns with 13. If you play daily fantasy, get these guys in your lineup for God's sakes, because the Lions will have absolutely no answers for them. Green Bay is 9-3 this season and is almost the shoo-in for their second consecutive NFC North title, with the 6-6 Vikings the closest team behind them. Their defense can give up points, but it won't be 7.5 more than what the Pack will put up. Guys, if you're smart with your money and would like to make a pretty penny this weekend, take Green Bay laying the 7.5 and don't think twice about it. We are going to take a quick 60-second commercial break here on Detroit Sports Extreme. Do not go anywhere.
New this year and just in time for the holiday season is the Baby Alive Pooptricia doll. A baby so real, it poops. A doll with the face of Lions ex-head coach Matt Pooptricia teach this baby how to use the potty. But you better hurry, because after winning only 31% of his games in Detroit, Baby Pooptricia poops a lot. Hurry, I can't hold it anymore. Baby Pooptricia even eats. Feed me, damn it! Sleeps. Shoo! And lets you know when it's time to go potty. And he really goes. I gotta take a shit.
Mommy, Baby Pooptricia really went potty. I love you, Baby Pooptricia.
It's the Baby Alive Pooptricia doll. A baby so real it poops. Available now in stores everywhere.
Welcome back to Detroit Sports Extreme. Here again is your new voice for Detroit Sports, Johnny Bakerstone.
Switching now to Michigan, and first the football team. The annual Michigan-Ohio State game has been canceled due to COVID-19 concerns with the Wolverines, who were entering the game as 30-point underdogs. And whether or not I believe those, quote, COVID concerns is really besides the point. Sadly, this marks the first time the two haven't squared off since 1917. Ohio State is 16-2 against U of M since 2001, and this year would have assuredly been their 17th victory, but it's still something to watch, especially these days. Hilariously, the cancellation puts the Buckeyes at a total of 5 games this season, which is under the required threshold of 6 put forth by the Big Ten Conference to compete in the conference championship game against Northwestern. Oh no. Better luck next year, fuck eyes. Now back to Michigan. It has been a lost season for Jim Harbaugh and company, who have posted a dismal 2-4 record this season, including going winless at home for the first time in school history. And yes, although they've played only 3 games at the Big House because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but that includes losses to a rebuilding Michigan State team, a winless Penn State program, plus a 40-point ass-kicking to Wisconsin. Somewhere, Bo Schembechler is rolling over in his grave, watching khaki poopy pants stink up what was once a proud program. There have been rumors that Harbaugh will be offered a contract extension following this season, and if that happens, I might have a heart attack. As of now, they're just rumors, and I will not address them until they're confirmed. But come on, Wade Manuel, I know you're listening. It's time to pull the plug on Jimmy Boy and get a new coach to lead this program. Turning now to the basketball team. They have started the season 5-0 with double-digit victories against Bowling Green, Oakland, Ball State, Central Florida, and Toledo, with the only real hiccup coming against Greg Campy's Oakland Golden Grizz, a game the Wolverines survived in overtime despite being 31-point favorites. I still think Juwan Howard's in-game coaching and X's and O's can be questioned until proven otherwise, and will ultimately be put to the test in a loaded Big Ten this season, but he's surprisingly looking like a solid hire after having no previous head coaching experience. It's worth noting, Michigan State is ranked 4th in the country, Illinois 6th, Wisconsin 13, and Ohio State 22. So Michigan will have their hands full in the Big Ten. Howard's recruiting has so far been his strength, as he is welcoming the #1 recruiting class to Ann Arbor in 2021, according to 247 Sports. There are two things that have caught my eye early in the season. One, it was very smart for Isaiah Livers to come back for his senior season. Since the end of last season, his name was not seen in any 2-round mocks by major media outlets, and he was listed well outside the top 60 by ESPN, CBS Sports, and The Athletic. This will give him the opportunity to vastly improve his draft stock heading into the 2021 draft, especially his outside shot. Livers, though, is shooting an absurd 48% from three-point range so far this season, well above his career mark of 39%, and as you all know, the NBA is a game of the long ball these days. Overall, he leads the Wolverines in scoring at 16.2 points per game, but not far behind is freshman Hunter Dickinson. Dickinson is an athletic 7'2" big man with a nice shooting touch. He's shooting 71% from the field, and he also has good low post passing and solid shot blocking. Guys, turn a Michigan game on and check this guy out. He is fun to watch. The versatile center is second on the team in scoring at 14.8 points per game and leads Big Blue in both rebounds per game at 7.4 and blocks per game at 1.4. He's already become my favorite Wolverine to watch. Michigan's Big Ten schedule starts this Sunday as they host 3-1 Penn State at 2 o'clock at the Chrysler Center. Check out Dickinson and the boys on the Big Ten Network. Now moving 65 miles west to East Lansing, the Michigan State football team, just like their aforementioned in-state rivals, are 2-4, but Sparty gets a free pass this season under first-year head coach Mel Tucker. Yes, they've had some bad losses. The season opening 38-27 upset to Rutgers, a 49-7 blowout at Iowa, a 24-0 shutout against Indiana, and last week's 52-12 thrashing against Ohio State. But tough times were to be expected under a coach that was just hired back in February, who could barely get his feet wet before everything was shut down in March due to the coronavirus pandemic. And that's not to say all has been lost. MSU did beat Michigan 27-24 on Halloween, and although the win doesn't seem nearly as good now as it did then, it's still a great accomplishment for a first-year head coach against a heated rival. Great job on that one, by the way, Jim Poopy Khaki Pants Harbaugh. State also knocked off 8th-ranked Northwestern back in late November, which is still the Wildcats' only loss of the season. So you're seeing glimpses of what could be a solid program for years to come, but Tucker just needs more time to recruit and to get his system established in East Lansing. It would obviously be a huge help if the 48-year-old could find himself a quarterback, as Rocky Lombardi clearly is not the answer. But that is no breaking news story. I loved the Tucker hire back in February, and I still love it now. Just give it time. Transitioning now to the basketball team. The fourth-ranked Spartans are 5-0, with their most notable victory coming last week at Duke in impressive fashion, 75-69. It was Tom Izzo's first win ever at Cameron Indoor Stadium as he improved to 3-12 all-time against Coach K. This season, MSU continues their solid brand of defense and rebounding, and the player that has really caught my eye the most is sophomore guard Rocket Watts from Detroit. Watts primarily played shooting guard last season, but that role has changed to point guard this season. At just 6'2", if he wants any chance in playing at the next level, point guard will have to be his position. Watts ranks second on the team in both points and assists per game and has a motor that never stops running. He is lightning quick on that Breslin center court. He's also shooting a respectable 44% from the field and 36% from long range. I think he'll only get better as the season progresses. I've had the most fun watching Watts for the Spartans so far this season, but another player of note is junior transfer forward Joey Hauser, who leads the team in both points and rebounds per game and is shooting 54% from the field and nearly 40% from deep. The former Marquette Golden Eagle had to sit out last season due to transfer rules, but has made a splash so far this season in East Lansing. If you leave him open, he's gonna make you pay. So far, so good for the basketball team, and if we actually get a March Madness in a few months, I could see them making some serious noise. MSU will host Oakland this Saturday at high noon before starting their Big Ten season on the road at Northwestern on December 20th.
Rock that boat!
It's now time for the first ever segment of Rock That Boat. Every here and there, Boats from the West Side has a bone to pick and a rant to go on, and this edition features his hatred for ESPN college basketball analyst Jay Billis.
I got a little bone to pick with ESPN and Jay Billis. Why is he a color commentator? Why? He's so boring, man. I can't even watch the games. It's so awful. The guy's an analyst. Like, put him on Sports Center. Put him on your other stupid shows, man. I don't need to be explained to what an up and under move is, man. When a guy does an up and under move, you're a color commentator. Have some fun with this thing. Oh, he did a whoopsie daisy or whatever the hell you're going to say, man. Don't explain to me the dictionary definition of what the move that the guy just did was, man. That's not a color commentator. It's so boring.
That was Boats from the West Side in Rock That Boat. Extreme Expressions.
As with every show, we take 3 calls from you, the listeners. These were the calls taken after the Lions' Thanksgiving loss to the Texans that led to the demise of Boob, Quinn, and Matt Pooptricia. First on the docket is Harold, who lives in a random-ass place in the country.
Well, this is Harold calling. I understand this is the place to come to talk about Detroit sports. I live at some random-ass place in the country. It doesn't really matter. I just pissed that the national audience had to watch these crappy Lions on Thanksgiving. Well, I'm thinking about divorcing my wife again, because it's more exciting watching her peel potatoes for the dinner than it was watching this crazy bunch of folks on the field. I mean, this game was uglier than the gray glob of shit that comes out of the backside of the turkey when my wife is pulling that stuffing out into the bowl. Hell, I threw up my whole fifth of Jack Daniels when Stafford threw that pick 6. You know how hard it was to convince the guy at the liquor store to open up and sell me another one on a holiday? Geez, I passed out halfway through the third quarter, and I wouldn't have remembered any of this if I didn't have to see the lowlights of this bullshit again after Trisha got fired.
Oh, shit, Tricia got fired all right after that absolute nonsense we had to witness on Thanksgiving. Next up is a staple here on DSE. It's Boats from the West Side.
Hey, John. Boats in the West Side again. Alright, it's another shit game. Yeah, but you know what? The other team's doing frickin' steroids like a son of a bitch. Will Fuller, of course he had 170 yards against us. He's doing steroids. I mean, what are you going to do against that? And then Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn lose their jobs. It's bullshit. It's just straight up bullshit because of steroids. And I get irritated about that, man. But hey, we're going to look towards the future. And you know what? Who you want to get, man? Everybody says Eric Bieniemy. I don't think that he's the guy, man.
My God, Boats from the West Side, your speech sounds slurred. Pounding back the brewskis a little too hard after seeing your boyfriends get fired? And always deflecting, blaming the loss to the Texans on steroids. You, my man, are a disgusting human being. Last but not least is Coach, who may have a message or two for Boats.
Hey, Boats, you suck. Your team sucks. Your coach is gonna suck. Your new GM is gonna suck. Your quarterback sucks. Your number 3 overall pick, Okuda, sucks. Your frickin' third-grade teacher-looking owner, she sucks. And her mother sucks, too. And her dead dad, he sucked, too. By God, Boats, it's a disaster. It's always gonna be a disaster. And your boy number 9's the reason to blame. It ain't the coach. It ain't the GM. It's the frickin' quarterback. The worst thing to ever happen in this franchise is Sam Bradford not to come out of the draft in 2009 and stay a year, because at least after 4 years, we would have known that guy sucks too. Instead, year 12, oh, Boats, if I ever see you in person, I swear to God, this fist is going right down, right in your frickin' mullet, Boats. You suck, and take that tin can, go into Lake Superior, and don't come back.
Hello, shots fired. I'm hoping we hear a rebuttal from Boats on next week's show. Special thanks goes to Harold, Boats, and Coach. If you'd like to call into the show, simply audio message us on the Detroit Sports Extreme Facebook page for a chance to be heard on next week's show.
Detroit Sports Extreme presents Michigan Moments.
This Michigan moment brings us back to December 5th, 1969, when Sergei Fedorov is born in Mother Russia. Bear with me here, as this is kind of a slow week in Michigan sports history. Fedorov is best known for his 13 seasons with the Red Wings from 1990 until 2003. He is one of the first hockey players to defect from his native Soviet Union in order to play in the NHL, as the Wings drafted him 74th overall in the 1989 NHL draft. One of my personal fondest memories of Sergei was when he scored all 5 of the Red Wings goals in an overtime victory against the Washington Capitals in 1996. Fedorov ranks 2nd all-time in Red Wings history in plus-minus, 3rd in game-winning goals, 4th in goals, 6th in points, and 7th in assists. The winner of the 1994 Hart Trophy, which is awarded to the most valuable player, Fedorov helped the Wings win 3 Stanley Cups and was a 3-time Olympian. He could really do it all. He primarily played center, but could also play as a winger and defenseman. He could score goals, play defense, check opposing players into the boards, and in his prime was the fastest player on the ice. Wayne Gretzky once said, quote, "I couldn't play forward and defense. Mario Lemieux couldn't do it. Jaromir Jagr couldn't play defense, but Sergei Fedorov could. He was one hell of a player." End quote. Yes, he was, Wayne. Yes, he was. Fedorov was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame on November 9th, 2015, Today, Fedorov serves as the general manager of KSKA Moscow. He resides in Moscow during the hockey season and splits his summers between Detroit and Miami. A special DSC vodka cheers goes to you, Sergey. Happy birthday!
Bird of the Week.
I refuse to select any member of the Detroit Lions from Sunday's win in Chicago, as the win did more damage to the organization than good. So instead, I'll take Michigan center Hunter Dickinson as this week's bird. We touched on the freshman earlier on the show, but his performance bears repeating, as he's the only Wolverine that has scored in double digits in every game this season. Most recently, Dickinson finished with 18 points on 8 of 11 shooting and pulled down 7 rebounds and 4 blocked shots in Michigan's 91-71 win over Toledo. Dickinson is only averaging 17 minutes a game this season, but is still second on the team in scoring, and now may be needed even more as starter Austin Davis hobbled off the court with an apparent non-contact leg injury in the Toledo game. Hopefully it isn't serious, and as of this recording, I don't know the severity, but in any event, tune in to the Big Blue Machine this Sunday at 2 o'clock to check this guy out.
Turd of the Week.
This one is easy, as the turds of the week go to both Boob Quinn and Matt Pooptricia. The only thing I'll miss about these two is saying their names every week, and it's now safe to say their 10 years in the Motor City were a downright disaster of biblical proportions. Here's a funny stat. Matt Pooptricia was 0-5 against the Chicago Bears as head coach of your Detroit Lions, including allowing Mitchell Trubisky to throw for at least 3 touchdowns and have a passer rating over 100 in each of the past 4 games. As soon as poop was flushed down the toilet, the Lions miraculously win in Chicago, and Trubisky throws just 1 touchdown pass. Coincidence? I'll let you be the judge.
Stat of the Week.
1. Ending on a positive note, Lions second-year tight end TJ Hawkinson ranks first among NFC tight ends in each of the following categories: receptions with 52, yards with 614, yards after catch with 288, receiving first downs with 33, and 10-plus yard receptions with 28. I was all over Hawk from day one this season, and he has certainly not disappointed. Outside of DeAndre Swift and the oft-injured Kenny Galladay, Hawkinson has been one of Detroit's few offensive bright spots, and I only see him getting better and better as time goes on. Keep up the good work, number 88. That will do it for this edition of DSE. Any thoughts? Post them on the Detroit Sports Extreme Facebook page. Enjoy your weekend, Detroit, and Aaron Rodgers, you can eat shit.